Good morning, ladies and good afternoon. Actually, I left in the morning. That's why. Good afternoon, ladies and gentlemen. This is a series of our Master Forum. This is the fourth time we have this year for this continuous program we had in the big name called SHS, Society, Humanity, and Science. And before we started, let me introduce our guest today. I think in addition to our honorable speaker today, I want to first introduce Professor Chen Zhuting. He is the PI of SHS. With his effort, we have all the program together. I am responsible for the Master Academy, which is an annual week-long summer camp in Hualien, as well as this forum. We have this every year. But in the SHS, we know they have also other programs in the curriculum, in the so-called digital storage and the platforms, and also the main office also a program to culture or cultivate or culture few professors, teachers. In the term, we try to promote called transdisciplinary education. I think we all know this is not an easy task, because to change the mindset of the education, it's a big engineering process, and it takes time. For this forum, this is the fourth one of the forum. We have chosen topic. The first one, we identify 3 keywords for the 21st century. We identify it is creativity, innovation, and the sustainability, which is the important keywords in the 21st century. In the second year, we converge into globalization, which is what we need. So every country, people live in their own places. You look at the global issue, maybe you realize the solution locally. That's globalization. In the meantime, we introduce different methodology. For example, design thinking. For example, problem-based solving technique in the camp. And this year is the 4th year. We further converge. So we chose 3 concepts, which is tradition, innovation, and creativity, which is the entrepreneurship. So these are the main purpose of this forum this year. We try to encourage young generation to go from tradition, use your innovation, and to start your own future, which we term it as entrepreneurship. I think this is the goal of our conversation and our dialogue here. And tomorrow there will be another same forum in Donghua with a lot of local artists together. So, and Professor Wang will start an international folk art festival in Hualien. We will start something from the origin. So this is the main theme of this year. Let me introduce you Judith Espinal, and she will be our one of the speakers today. And Edric Hong. He's from Judith is from Santa Fe, New Mexico, USA. She has a tremendous experience in studying the international folk art market in Santa Fe, and it was a marvelous achievement for indigenous artists and the folk art in the state. I'm sure later we'll have more introduction. Edric Hong is from Malaysia, and he has been an architect for 30 years, but he had devoted himself to promote the Malaysian culture-based art form and the innovation into business and into for the youngsters' future. They both are very active in UNESCO and globally. So they are the typical example, so-called globalization. The global issue, they brought it back to the country and then realized locally. This is what we are hoping to build a bridge for our young young generation. So, and then last I will introduce the host of this forum today, Professor Yu Wan. She's now I know her very well. She's now the director, chairperson of, we have a very unique department called Department of Arts and Creative Industry. And this is very unique in Taiwan. And we have art department, we have industry, we have business school, but there's not something in between like this. So this is a very unique department in our university, Donghua University. Started 5 years ago and built by Professor Wan. And the purpose of that department is to engage young people, engage in the arts and creative type of industry, what we call 文创事业 or 艺创事业 in Taiwan. So it's been and that department is the hardest one to get in. The acceptance rate is like a few percent. It's a pride of Donghua University. Finally, I am Jia Liang Chen. I'm Vice President of National Donghua University. Humbly be your host also today. And I hope we have a very nice discussion today. So I will hand over my microphone to Professor Wan so she could have more detail in this introduction for the two speakers here.
Thank you very much.
Ladies, gentlemen, and my dear students and faculty members in National Taiwan University, this is my great pleasure to be here to introduce one very special occasion to have two very influential people from the States and from Malaysia. Let me introduce both of them in Chinese. 各位同学，还有各位来宾、各位老师们。 今天非常的高兴能够代表东华大学，我们艺术创意产业团队来为各位介绍一下我们这一次在达人学院的整个的架构底下，我们呈现给各位一个非常重要的一个场合。这个场合里面，我们邀请了目前在全世界非常重要的2位前辈级的人物。我之所以说他们是前辈，并不是指他们的年龄有多么的资深，而是指他们目前所完成的这样的成就。 实际上是非常多年的累积。当然，第一位呢就是 Julish， 我们可以称呼她做老师也行。她其实是一个非常重要的一个女性的艺术家，在她的自己的这个生涯的发展里面，你可以想象到跨领域的一个成就就是如此。她最早的时候呢，其实是一个在服装设计界她一直在服装设计界非常多年。 她拿到了她的硕士学位之后呢，就一直在服装设计界经营了很多年。后来呢，她就一直思考她的人生的方向，她希望能够有另外一种的突破。然后她开始想象，她真的是需要是什么，什么才是她最大的热情所在。所以后来她回到了她的家乡以后呢，她在仔细思考这个部分，她就到纽约去了。她在纽约呢工作了一阵子，然后一直在找寻一个地方。 后来，他跟他的姐姐一起开设了一个陶的 studio， 一个陶作坊。我们如果说是作为陶的一个工坊，他开始首创的事业是在这个部分。他利用人类最原始的可以用到的材料就是土，他利用土来做各种的陶器，然后开始这个我们所谓的最早的文创事业。然后他经营的非常的不错，反而到他的地下室，他在他们的家居的地下室。 完全没有办法负荷这么大的一个庞大的量了以后，他又在思考他人生下一个方向。 然后那个时候他其实已经在这个企业上面的成就已经是非常的好了，然后希望他能够有一个另外一种的方向的时候，他才突然想到说他在做陶的工坊，实际上他可以把他对这种工艺手做的尤其是跟民间传统比较有关系的这样子的一个生产，有没有可能可以有更大的影响力？因为他一直不断在收集各种手做的东西，所以有一天的下午，他正好跟他另外一个朋友在喝下午茶，在喝下午茶，喝 coffee 在喝 coffee 的过程里面谈到就说，我们两个人都有这样的一个梦想，很希望能够影响到别人，因为他们都很喜欢收集手工艺品。后来他们就想说，那何不我们把我们在世界旅游各地的这些艺术家的作品还有艺术家们，我们就把他们邀集到美国，让更多人看得到所以他们就开始了他新的一个想法，就叫做 folk art market。那开始的时候呢，只是一个非常小规模，在圣塔菲这样的一个小城市，在新墨西哥州，在这个小城市里面呢，他开始他第一届的我们说的民族艺术我叫做展会国际民族艺术展会开始的第一届，邀请了50位的来自全世界各地的艺术家，只有美国没有，他就是除了美国当地的艺术家以外，全世界的艺术家都是他邀请之列，所以他第一年举办就很不错的成绩，50位艺术家都来，然后第2年开始越大规模，一直到去年办理的第11届第10届办了完之后，他们有一个非常大的一个盛会。直到去年的第11年的时候呢，我们有一个机会那我注意到这样的一个民族艺术的一个展会，我在想怎么没有我们台湾的艺术家在里面所以我经过了半年多的努力，终于推了第一位我们台湾的原住民艺术家能够进到这个 Santa Fe Folk Market他呢是台湾族的传统琉璃珠我们用这样子一个宝贵的文化资产来代表我们台湾所有原住民的艺术总算顺利进去了。所以我到那边才真正的亲眼目睹一个国际的盛会，它可以借由一个非常好的一个场域，在非常短的时间内达成的效益却是非常的重大。然后跟各位报告，就是过去这10年来，在 Julish 他所创办这个 folk art market 的这个过程里，他网罗的这些艺术家邀请的这些艺术家都来自于大部分都是非常我们认为的贫穷落后的区域，尤其是那些未开发的或是在开发中的国家，例如说在非洲撒哈拉沙漠有一些民族艺术家或者是在南美洲秘鲁森林丛林里面你从来都没有听过的名字的一些小族群，他们的艺术家邀请到美国来，然后他们在那边的展会期间非常短的时间内，他们所展现的艺术作品，然后能够让一些喜爱者收藏，他那个获益是非常的大。我听说的一个说法是，他甚至在那短短的几天，他带回他的营收，回到他的部落里，他可以活1整年，而且还可以聘雇当地那些原住民的一些妈妈们或者年轻的妇女们，让他来一起延续这个传统手工艺。所以我想我今天介绍虽然是很短的说明一下，所以待会呢Jody 是会跟各位更清楚的用一个film的方式，而且还有一些他的 PowerPoint 的部分，能够让各位理解他的梦想。所以呢，我今天要 share 第2个梦想呢，也从这个梦想里面，我介绍了 Adrian 老师。Adrian 老师呢，我认识他也是还有一些渊源。Adrian 老师他其实也是跨领域，我相信各位在座的人呢，也一直在想如何所谓的跨领域。跨领域的成就其实非常重要的呢，就是在这2位身上可以看得到。像 Adrian 老师，他之前其实是建筑师，他是一个非常成功的建筑师，在马来西亚的当地，他运用他在建筑设计的这样子的一个天分他曾经开展了几个重大的一些建筑案，包括一个文化园区我有去过那个文化园区，整个建筑物非常非常的棒。第2个，他还主导了一个建筑案，是他们古晋就是我们叫古晋市古晋市就是他所在的那个城市的名称，古晋市的机场也是他的设计案诸如此类。你可以想到他其实是一个非常好的一个建筑设计师，可是呢他也是有另外一些梦想，而且还有热情。他的热情也是跟 Julish 一样，就是想说我对艺术的热爱，尤其是对首创的那个热爱，我有没有可以帮助更多的人，能够引导更多的人，让人类 文化，尤其最珍贵里面的艺术的这些首创的资产，能够被留下来、被传承，而且在现代当代的社会里继续被运用。所以他协助了非常多马来西亚当地，可能并不是太多人知道的少数民族啊，尤其是伊班族这个族群，他们有非常好的物质文化传统，是在织布，而且他们的织布的那个图文是非常特别的啊，叫做伊卡编织，伊卡编织这样子的一个图文的一个表现，几乎都快失传了。经过他的努力，他让这一些老妇人能够把他的技术慢慢的再传下来，然后透过他的方式，更把这些传统的技术转化成新的创意，让现代的人也很 appreciate 他们，然后把这些作品能买回家里，在现代的家居里做装饰。所以我觉得这两位我说的前辈级这两位讲者，其实他们提供给我们的却是2个字可以形容：第一个，你一定要 ambitious， 你一定要有野心；第二个，你一定不要忘记自己，你最大的本钱就是在你的热情。他们2人的 passion 成就了我刚刚跟各位描述的这在艺术上面对人类文化的一个成就。今天能够请他们2位，我觉得是我非常大的荣幸。那也很高兴能够介绍他们给各位。那今天我就把这个时间呢留给这2位我们非常重要的这个 speaker。首先让我来欢迎这个 Judith please would you start your talk today, and they are so excited to hear your sharing. Thank you very much.
It's a great honor to be here today, and I'd like to thank the National Taiwan University, Professor Yu Wang and of the Taiwan Project, and Professor Chai-Ling Cheng for inviting me here today to share with you an experience of a dream come true. So we're going to start out with a small video. This is something that the market organization, which is now called the International Folk Art Alliance, because it's more than a market. We say it's more than a market, it's a miracle. And we're going to show you, this is the film that we send around to all the important publications, the New York Times, all the way down to Better Homes and Gardens and Martha Stewart, to tell the world about what we're doing. So I thought I would share this with you today as a startup so that you can get in the mood to talk about the folk art market.
More than 3 billion people, or almost half the world's population, live on less than $2.50 a day. And some 30 traditional cultures disappear every year. It's estimated that craft is the 2nd largest income generator behind agriculture in the developing world. And folk art has become a financial lifeline for many.
When a woman becomes financially independent, she is a free woman.
The international folk art market, the largest of its kind in the world, has become a mecca for master artists. This summer, more than 150 of them will board buses, boats, camels, and planes to bring their work to market from every corner of the globe. And close to 25,000 visitors will flock to Santa Fe to look, listen, learn, and celebrate these artists' timeless traditions. In doing so, they will discover discover that the beauty of traditional art dissolves borders and that every piece has its own unique cultural story.
Je suis fier de tête parce que je fais plus belle de la pauvreté. Le travail, ça, ce n'est pas le monde qui montre le fond. C'est un don et puis c'est un génie qui montre le fait ça dans le monde.
Behind the scenes, the International Folk Art Market has provided business training to hundreds of artists. Now in its 11th year, the market has created the International Folk Art Alliance to further cultivate artists' potential by offering more year-round training and opportunities.
Quel child, et là c'était ici the last year, and can school from startup she can pay for the school fees.
The market has generated almost $19 million in artist sales, 90% of which has gone home with the artists and their organizations to impact more than 1 million lives in the communities they represent.
1/3 of our women are widows, single-handedly raising children in a very patriarchal society, where there is no other opportunity for these women to bring any other income.
Together, we will continue to create a world that values the humanity of the handmade, honors timeless traditions, and embraces the vision of dignified livelihoods for folk artists across the globe. And that, after all, is the work of art.
This is great. If you can just leave these statistics on the wall. Oh my goodness. I think you can turn it off now. This is somebody else's video. Actually, it doesn't even look like the folk art market. We're going to go into a PowerPoint now, and I'm going to describe for you what I had the challenge of bringing this marketplace here to you today, and I was wondering how I would get up here in front of you and explain to you how something like this happens. Just to give you a measuring stick in relationship to where the folk art market is today, there's a publication in the United States called USA Today. It has 3.25 million copies are read or distributed every day. And they just recently had a contest for the best art event in the United States. And the Santa Fe International Folk Art Market is #1. So we're very, very proud of that. And I'd like to talk to you about how the market got started through telling you what we decided, what were the decisions that we made that brought us into this realm of success. And I think I can start by showing you our mission statement. And this mission statement is the second version, and there's an important new word here. The mission is to celebrate and preserve living folk art traditions and create economic opportunities for and with folk artists worldwide. And the word that we added is with. And I think that this is the most important thing that we've learned throughout the years of doing this market, that we are learning from our artists more than they are learning and taking home. They have taught us about the way people live in the world, and they have helped us to understand that success is culturally and individually interpreted. So this is why we are, and this is why so many people believe in us. As I said, we're going to talk about the folk art market in relationship to the key decisions that have shaped the success of the market. First and foremost are the artists. The artists are at the center of every decision. Sometimes we argue about something that might seem incidental, but we feel is a very important piece of what we do. And somebody always says 3 or 4 hours into this, what is the decision that will help the artist the most? That is how we run the International Folk Art Market. It also, our mission statement is extremely important because it helps us to prevent mission drift. And that's what happens to organizations when they get bigger. They start to incorporate many, many, many ideas that are extremely important, but they move away from the heart of what made them what they are. We try to keep reinventing what we are, keep making it successful, but we never go away from the artist because they are the heart and it's their market. If we had to talk about one thing that makes this market more significant than other markets of its kind in the world, and actually there aren't any other markets of its kind in the scale that the Santa Fe market is now, and that is the vetting. And the vetting process means for us that we have an independent jury of experts. And these people come in and they look at every application. It's done by a person who's an expert in that part of the world. They have the job of reviewing every application that comes in from an artist at that part of the world and presenting it to the entire group through a metric system. And so there's a grade that comes, but very often people under the grade or do get in, and people over the grade don't get in. So it's not the final decision, but it does give you an idea of whether or not the experts in the field think that this is a worthy candidate. About 1 out of every 4 applications are accepted. So it's very difficult to become an international folk art market artist. And we have one here in the room. We actually have 2. So the jury says, yes, this is a stellar example of folk art in this culture today, or no. And if they say yes, it goes to another committee that is a vetting committee of people within the market whose job it is to decide whether or not this person has a place in the composition of that year's market, which has to deal with excitement, variety, and beauty of as many different mediums as we can possibly cram into one market year. One of the important things that someone asked me last night, and I thought, gosh, I haven't been saying this, it's very, very important. We actually look very carefully at saleability, because the thing that we most try to protect against not happening is an artist coming to the market and not doing well when there are 160 other artists that are like so busy that they can't find a second to take a bite to eat. So we try very hard to select work that will sell well at our market from the experience that we have for 11 and 12 years. And only a very few times in our history have we had that dramatically difficult experience where an artist hardly sold anything. And I don't think that's happened in the last 5 years. I hope I'm right. So as I told you before, and I went back and I should have gone forward. Okay, here's the next point that's extremely important. At the very, very first, we had no money, and we had this big idea about bringing artists from all over the world, and we didn't know how to get them there. So we invited the business community of our city to a meeting, and we told them about what we wanted to do. And we specifically targeted every store that carried any kind of folk art. And we asked them, could they apply? This was the tricky thing. They were ready to bring anybody, but could they apply to bring a very, very high quality folk artist from their, from the people who sell their merchandise in their store to the folk art market. And over 40% of the artists that came the first year came through local businesses. And I want to stress this in relationship to how to make something successful. If you have buy-in from the business community where you live and where you're producing an event, that buy-in goes out to everybody that store deals with, to everybody that deals with those people, etc., etc. And before you know it, you have everybody talking about something that's never even happened. And it's an extraordinary thing, and it's very different if you ask that store to give you some merchandise, for example, to do a raffle or something like that to bring some energy to your event. There's no buy-in. There's just giving something. But when you ask people to participate and tell them to bring something that they have that's of very high quality to your event, that's an enormous, enormous factor in how your community feels about your event, and it hasn't even happened yet. Another thing that we did from the very beginning was that we recognized there were many events in Santa Fe that we felt were very elitist in the way they were being handled, in the way they were being run, and what their message was to the public. And so we decided that the very important thing that we were going to do was that we were going to make sure that nobody couldn't participate in the market because they didn't have the price of a ticket. And so in the first year, the ticket was $3. That was 12 years ago. Now the lowest ticket is $15 on Sunday, and $20 to $25, I believe, now on Saturday, and then for the special events, it goes all the way up there. But the artists take 90% of what they earn home, so it's always a difficult financial proposition for the market to be able to raise the money to keep doing this. So the event that we do every year is a free concert with usually a named international world band, a world music band. And then the other thing that has spawned out of this is something that the artists talk about all year long, and that is the procession of the artists, where they all come down a runway and do their stuff to music from their particular country, and their particular culture is played live while they're doing this. And this market procession has become, I believe last year there were 5,000 people at least that attended that event, and it's become a huge, huge community favorite. And all kinds of people start bringing their kids at 4 o'clock in the afternoon, having picnics in this open park that we have in Santa Fe, and it's a wonderful thing. And this is community buy-in. One of my favorite parts of the market, and one of the things that I feel is incredibly important, is the fact that when people come in through the gates of the market, it's going from one world to another. We do this amazing decoration, and every year it's extremely different. There's a different theme, a different color, a different feeling. And there's my favorite story about this, although there are many, is one of my friends was standing next to a little boy and his mother when they were coming through the market, when we still had that sparkly curtain, which we don't have anymore. And he looked up in the air and he said, "Is this the gates of heaven?" So that was, that's our favorite story about the way it looks, and also the way we feel about coming in and enjoying the international group that gets together every year to make the world's biggest traditional market. The volunteers are also a key part of what we do, and they're not just volunteer workers. They're volunteer creators. We give them a lot of leeway in terms of making creative decisions so that the market is different every year. And also they're our best ambassadors. All of them have at least 5 people sleeping in sleeping bags in their living room floor, and every bed is full, and everybody's house is full for Folk Art Market Week. So our volunteers are our best ambassadors, and we now have somewhere between 1,600 and 1,700 volunteers involved in actually putting on Market Week. And I'm going to tell you a fun story. Many years ago, maybe in the 4th year of the market, we got a connection and we got an interview at the Clinton Global Initiative. And it's a great place to make connections if you want to grow. And we were scared to death because we started reading these portfolios of all of these members, and one of them has distributed 2 million phones in a country in South Africa, and the numbers of what they did were just astounding, and we didn't have numbers in dollars that were anywhere near the takeaway, the physical takeaway of what these other applicants to the Clinton Global Initiative were bringing to the picture. And so we said to them, does social capital count? And they said, do you know what social capital is? Do you people know what social capital is? And we said, oh yes, that's what we have lots of. We got in. So it was a great thing to understand what you're doing in the scope of the world and understand how to talk about it from the very beginning. We were sort of the way I was when I was trying to pronounce the Chinese names to say thank you today, very frightened. And it was a great thing that they understood that what we were doing and the way we were doing it was as important as the dollars that we were actually distributing. That's a big thing in the United States. So another enormous thing, and this is sometimes costly, but I cannot stress it enough, investing in public relations. And really truly understanding that what you are creating means very little unless everybody knows about it. And we happen to have a great public relations person who has gotten us an amazing special on CBS Sunday morning, almost 7 minutes long, about our work in the world and the experience at the market. And then, as I just told you, we were voted #1 best art event in the United States, USA Today. Training is another key part of our market elements or our market investment. And we did training from the 2nd year on, and the training is on 2 levels and 2 different kinds. First of all, we have what we call market readiness. And all of the new artists that come to the market every year, which is somewhere between 40 and 50% of the participants, they are all invited to take part free in this training. And mainly it deals with readiness for the Santa Fe market. And they go through exercises. 2 of the very important things that they do is they learn how to price their merchandise. And in doing that, they learn something that most artisans do not take into consideration. And that is, what is their hourly rate? How much do they get paid in the price of that merchandise for how many hours it took them to make it? And are they including the electric bill and the 2 rooms in their house where they're doing this work, etc.? So we teach them how to price their merchandise, what the markup should be, what the margin can be in a place like Santa Fe as opposed to a local market at home. And the second really big thing that we teach them in this opening training is how to tell their story. Because storytelling is the way of the world today. And people are extremely interested in understanding what is valuable to a person in another part of the world and how they perceive this opportunity and how they perceive being an artisan in the world today, which means that they are the culture bearer of their particular society that is moving that tradition forward for another generation. If you become an international folk art market artist, you understand that after you've been through this training and after you've been through the market, because the whole market and everything that goes on in that market is based on what we call a learn and do experience, so that you're in the classroom for 2 days prior to setting up your booth and getting ready for the crowds to come, and then you put everything you learned into action. And maybe it doesn't all take place the first year, but the artists tell us that by the 2nd year, things really begin to happen with them, and they start to understand what it means to be part of an international family of high-level artisans in the world today. Cultivating partners. I can't really talk enough about the importance of cultivating partners. And there are two different kinds of partners that the market actually went out and purposely created at two different times. And those partnerships are really the reason that we still are here today. Before we did our first recurring year, which was the second year, we decided we were able to sign a memo of understanding with three very important organizations in our community. The Museum of International Folk Art, which gave us credibility, the Cultural Affairs Department of the State of New Mexico, which helped us get our site, and the Museum of New Mexico Foundation, which became our nonprofit umbrella and finance director for the first 4 years of the market. So what we did was, through this MOU, we created an infrastructure, a baby infrastructure for our first years. And when the market was successful the second year, we didn't have to go out and scurry again for another site, etc. Because once you're successful, you can't really get an MOU with the kind of terms that we got before we were successful. So I really stress that doing a nonprofit event the first time, you need to get your roots in the ground before success hits, because after that time, you'll find that everybody wants a piece of the action, and when everybody gets a piece of the action, it's a great thing, except that it dilutes, almost always, it dilutes your mission. So, the first 3 or 4 years, we created the infrastructure through our partnerships. And after that, we cultivated partners on a different level. From the very first year, we had a partnership with UNESCO. And my dear friend Edric, who is here today, I just clarified with him that he sent me a fax after the first year of the market saying, hey, we're UNESCO here in Southeast Asia, and we want to come. And I thought, oh my God, they want to come to our market? I couldn't wait. So it was very exciting. And Edric, through his genius and his ability to bring people together, has brought 5 different UNESCO groups under our umbrella now, and it's an incredibly successful program. I would gather in my mind now that about 40% of the artists that come every year to our market had their first successes in the UNESCO booth. Then we became connected through UNESCO with the World Craft Council. The Kellogg Foundation sponsored an internship program that allowed us to put a curriculum actually behind training people in the world to do markets, indigenous artisan markets. The Alliance for Artisan Enterprise is the group out of the State Department in the United States, and we are a founding member of that organization. The Peace Corps celebrated its 50th anniversary in 5 locations in the United States, and one of them was at the Santa Fe International Folk Art Market. And Women of the World this year, which is an amazing, relatively new organization, featured the work of our artists at their meeting just in April this year. So we're very excited about that new partnership. And what happens when you get this scale of partnerships is that the opportunities for your artists multiply and multiply and multiply again. And that is the reason we're in business, for operating, getting opportunities for artists. Going global. We're now called the International Folk Art Alliance because we have many programs. We have a wholesale market at the Dallas Mart, which is also a training program, Is Wholesaling Right for You? And we have participated in museum shops all over the United States in various pop-up shops. And we are definitely looking for a home, another big home for another big market. And so what does it mean to go global? We're very lucky because we have a new executive director, Dr. Jeff Snell, and he is an expert in social entrepreneurship. And he is bringing to us the understanding of how we can take and leverage the artistic ability of the great traditional cultural artists in the world and bring more benefit to their communities. And through that knowledge and his initiatives added to the initiatives we have right now, we think that we'll be able to bring more folk artists under our umbrella, and also really more dignity to the communities where these folk artists live. And I want to thank you very, very much for listening to our story, and I hope that you have lots of questions to ask. Thank you.
Thank you very much, Professor Wan, Professor Chen, Professor Chia, and Judith, and all my friends from the different universities, and all my student friends as well. I'm not as tall because I'm not wearing high heels. So you have to look at me through the flowers, the beautiful flowers of Taiwan. Anyway, it's a pleasure to be here and to be able to share with you some of my thoughts along the theme that has been the topic of discussion that has been set by the organizers. So I'm throwing to you a few ideas which are dear to me and which I confess I believe in, and perhaps you can draw something from it as something that will also be of inspiration to you. So I'm talking about creativity as a practice in today's lifestyle. And drawing from tradition is something special as well. And there are so many similarities between Taiwan and my home state of Sarawak on the island of Borneo, because we are both islanders. We both live in islands. You in a smaller island, but me in the island of Borneo, which is much bigger. And Sarawak is just part of that big island. But creativity, what is it? Is it something that you hold in your very hand? That you can create something special like a little eagle's head, just with your own little handmade fingers. And you know that even as children, we used to play with our hands and our fingers and create shadow puppets. Something which is so natural and something which can inspire the little kids, and they laugh and they talk about happy talk, happy talk. You know, there's a song that we used to sing from South Pacific, happy talk, happy talk. And this is a wood carving from the Iban people, one of our biggest indigenous group in Sarawak, the Iban. This wood carving, representing the hornbill, The hornbill is the biggest bird in the rainforest and is considered as the chief god of the Iban people, Singgalang Burung. So with that comparison, something that is very fundamentally yours with your fingers and something that you create out of a piece of wood in the rainforest is what we're going to talk about. But I want to begin with one thing, which is very much faith. Acknowledging that there is a creator, we are his creation, and that is where all our creativity stems from. And I know that this is something which is probably in the minds of the professors here who are scientists and who believe that it comes from a big bang and not from an almighty being, God. I acknowledge myself. I am a born-again Christian, that God is the creator, I am his creation, and all my creativity comes from him. And this is a beautiful photo I took at the Grand Canyon in USA. And again, the other fact that I want to acknowledge is that we are equal partners, men and women. All right? Because there's so many women here. Yesterday, last night, as we were having discussions in Professor Wan's center, I took a photo and surrounding me were all the roses. I was the only thorn. And these are the superpower women who is going to set up the exhibition at that new Future Past Lab at Taipei National University of the Arts. But what is wonderful, even as we read this verse from Proverbs, from chapter 31, okay, even if you change it to man, but then here it is talking about the woman who fears God is a creative woman, that an excellent wife who can find. She's far more precious than jewels. The heart of her husband trusts in her, and he will have no lack of gain. She does him good and not harm all the days of her life. She seeks wool and flax and works with willing hands. She's like the sheep of the merchant. She brings her food from afar. She rises while it is yet night and provides food for her household and portions for her maidens. She considers a field and buys it. With the fruit of her hands she plants a vineyard. She dresses herself with strength and makes her arms strong. She perceives that her merchandise is profitable. Her lamp does not go out at night. She puts her hands to the distaff, and her hands hold the spindle. She opens her arms, her hands to the poor, and reaches out her hands to the needy. I use this verse to describe the very Iban weavers that I've been working for and with over the past 20 years. This is what is a description of the woman weaver in the longhouse. She's not afraid of snow for her household, for all her household are clothed in scarlet. She makes bed coverings for herself. Her clothing is fine linen and purple. Her husband is known in the gates when he sits among the elders of the land. She makes linen garments and sells them. She delivers sashes to the merchant. Strength and dignity are her clothing, and she laughs at the time to come. She opens her mouth with wisdom, and the teaching of kindness is on her tongue. She looks well to the ways of her household and does not eat the bread of idleness. Her children rise up and call her blessed. Her husband also, and he praises her. Many women have done excellently, but you surpass them all. Charm is deceitful, beauty is vain, but a woman who fears the Lord is to be praised. Give her of the fruit of her hands, and let her works praise her in the gates. So isn't this also a very fitting description for Mother's Day? All of us wouldn't be here if we were not born from a mother, correct? Don't tell me about test tube babies. Okay, let's move on about creative minds. Some thoughts that I have gathered. A creative mind has vision, imagination, creativity, and there is also innovation. What is inspiration? Inspiration like, can I paint the sky? It's a thought. But inspiration is another element that fosters a creative mind. It helps to start each day with an inspiring thought or little story left behind by the creative genius of the past. These parables and thoughts will uplift you and guide you through the day, keeping your mind in a lofty place. Right? We say that the soul, our soul, is lifted by noble reflections from minds and hearts that have soared beyond the norm. When your soul is uplifted, your ability to grasp and perceive in creative ways is greatly enhanced. Your desire to reach beyond your present boundaries is stimulated. This is the essence of a creative attitude, the desire to reach for new horizons. Many of us look to proverbs, look to sayings of the wise, of all who are before us or who are presently amongst us, as a source of inspiration from their thoughts, from their wisdom. And that we draw on as a foundation to build on. Look at this child. Sometimes say we have to come back to being like a child, with that childishness in order to see things in a different way. A creative mind needs the resiliency and flexibility that results from inspiration, that reminds us of a childlike attitude of exuberance and acceptance of life. This can be found in the expression of a happy toddler. If you have grown too old and too stubborn and too stiff a tree that it cannot bend anymore, then I'm sorry, your time is about to break. Your branches are breaking and the whole tree may even break. But if you are able to bend with the wind and to feel the fresh breeze, that your leaves may rustle and create new music, that is what we say, the beginnings of creativity. Start your day with this feeling, and everything that comes your way will be sweetened. Creative solutions will become obvious to even life's most difficult challenges. Yes, you may have disasters, but out of the ashes will arise if you have that fresh breeze flowing, blowing, and you can feel it, and you have that energy once again to rise up from the ashes, say, of an eruption, say, of an earthquake, of a tragedy. Now, this is not mine, but I'm just sharing with you what currently are going through the minds of thinkers and all the researchers, all right? We talk about the anatomy of a new creative mind. This is by David Amrona. Curiosity. The curious portion tends to ask why more than once. This part is willing to try and experience anything if it means gaining a better understanding of the problem. It thrives on observation and immersion. Okay, curiosity. Out of that curiosity, again, this is more the scientific aspect, if you like, the analytical. This part of the creative mind craves data, structure, and organization. The analytical portion dissects research input and looks for patterns that point to basic human needs and behaviors. Then there is the expressive. You need to be able to show, to tell, to sell your thoughts, your ideas, your story. The expressive side desires to tell stories and narratives in compelling fashion. This portion seeks to attract, engage, and captivate an audience. Then, this part I like. The sensual part. The sensual side seeks to satisfy all the senses. Aesthetics, beauty, and form are driving forces behind the sensual. And many of us involved in the arts, this is the one area which is so important to us. And how breakthroughs happen. don't expect that things will always be something novel, something new, never been done before. In every creative act we look at, essentially it is doing new things with old things. It's not like the ideas come out of thin air. You may have an aquarium behind your throne in the bathroom, or you may create a little aquarium within an old light bulb. Creativity and the 5 senses. This is what I like to share very much with you, that sometimes we are only looking at things we look at. But beyond that, what are we creating? What are the creative things we can do that would fit into what we want to satisfy ourselves in? The 5 senses: what we look at, sight, what we hear, what we taste, what we touch, what we smell. To see beauty. Who has ever told you, oh, I just saw an ugly baby, right? Every baby is beautiful. Every baby is charming, except when they cry and when they shit too much. But anyway, the cutest thing, I think, is to see a sleeping baby. Cute, cuddly, and innocent. This way we want to go back to be. Right? Then you have beautiful flowers with beautiful colors from flowers. Beautiful costumes worn by beautiful girls, beautiful textiles. That's what I like. To hear beauty. I have not met any person who tells me that they don't like to hear birds. Have you? Then that is his or her problem if they don't like to hear a bird sing. But I haven't come across such a person. But anyway, a symphony orchestra, the Vienna Boys Choir, these are just people who are talented and who give you that sense of beauty when they sing, when they play the musical instrument, when they perform together or singularly as a soloist. To taste beauty. It's beautiful. The lunch I had was a beautiful duck, a special duck from somewhere in some region. Ilan in Taiwan. We had this beautiful duck which was deboned for us over lunch. So it's beautiful. The taste of it, the way it was presented, and the beautiful company, of course. So to taste beauty, you know, I was just in Zurich in Switzerland. My sister is married to a Swiss, has lived there for 40 over years. And one of the beautiful things about Switzerland is chocolate.
Yes.
How many of you girls don't like chocolate? Chocolates. And there is one particular shop in Zurich that I always will go because they have a beautiful window display of their chocolates. It's called Teuscher. Alright? One round chocolate like that is 80 Singapore dollars because inside is filled with champagne. It's a champagne truth. Alright? So it's a beautiful shop, beautiful taste. So that whole area of catering to your taste buds, the culinary art. I know there are a few chefs in this audience. I would point them out. But it is really an art, and it is becoming such a big creative industry. I know it because my sister who lives in Singapore, Singapore is a foodie nation, we call it. You wouldn't go anywhere where they have so many magazines and articles in the newspapers that talk about food. Alright? Many of my brothers and sisters are foodies. When we are having lunch, they're thinking about dinner. Not only tonight, but tomorrow night. Oh, shall we go to this other store and taste the chili crabs and all that? And then they would drive all the way to look for food. But the whole thing about to taste beauty in food, in packaging, you may not be the one who is actually cooking, but you will be the one that will be able to present the food in a nice way, in creating all these carvings out of fruit or vegetables, or to be designing the packaging for nice chocolates, for nice sweets. Judy just gave me some beautiful packaged chocolates from Santa Fe. So that is another whole great big industry. And the Japanese are very good at this, packaging for food. To smell beauty. Why do you think all those branded designer brands, they are parading their haute couture? Do you think that so many women will wear those outrageous costumes that are only on the catwalks of Paris and Milan, that nobody can fit into those designer dresses? But it is branding, because those are the things that, jin sui ha. So that is the beginning of their sales pitch, the branding for Saint Laurent, YSL, for Chanel and all that. But what they will then be selling more will be the bottles of perfume. You can't wear the dress. I can wear Gucci, Chanel, Gucci Dior. Ayo, Jin Pang. Right? And then I know men hardly ever go out to buy eau de cologne for themselves, but it's the wives who are attracted and go and buy, hey darling, happy Father's Day. Spray, spray, spray. Pang lo? Doesn't matter whether I smell nice or not. As long as you smell me nice, it's good enough. That's the way it goes, right? And then when you pass a store that's selling famous Emmas at the airport, the smell of those chocolate chip cookies, you can tell from many yards away there's a famous Emma's there, because the smell of the cookies flood the air. To feel beauty, this is another aspect of the creative industry that has become a rave throughout Asia. Spas and beauty care parlors, where the art of massage and body care has become such a big thing. In Thailand, I don't know, maybe in Taiwan too, you have all these foot massage parlors, you know. But to feel beauty, this is something else which is soaring as an industry. So with those 5 senses, I just want to show and share with you some of the things which are now in the traditional in Sarawak, which are synonymous with what you have in the culture of Taiwan and from where we have gone. This is talking about the creative arts of Sarawak. I will run through them quickly. In wood carving, right? In basketry, fiber arts. This lady here is a nomadic lady, a nun. This is her pet dog. They go hunting in the forest. She makes this beautiful original knapsacks, if you like, the carry bags known as ajat baskets, which has drawstring. But these people are now being forced to settle down in villages, so their lifestyle is changed, and they can no longer be just foragers in the forest gathering ferns and roots to eat, but they have to plant something. And then when they are settled, the children have to go to school, and so they have to buy books and all that, and spend money to go down to the town, and they need cash, so they have to make crafts to sell. And we bring some of these bags to Santa Fe. All right. So this is traditional, enforced political change. They have to move with the new economy that the government sets out, you know. They have to be moving together with the rest of the country into the new economy. And the new economy means they need money. No longer just living off the land. So this other lady is making basketry, but with new designs, which I give to them, because the new economy, the new demands from the new market, the new generation who lives in high-rise apartments and in the cities, they don't want the traditional basket. It has no place in their home, doesn't fit my color scheme, doesn't fit my lifestyle. Hiya, you know, too old-fashioned. So you need them also to move to new designs and innovative products that will sell to the new market. The same thing with, this is Nancy. She's the weaver who is in Hualien at the art house for this program. And this is her woven dream. Now I want to share this story because it is important. Nancy is now, let's say, about 60 years old. She's a grandmother. She is, like me, we are Christians. But she believes in dreams, and she now, as a Christian, believes that the Holy Spirit and not the traditional weaving goddess that inspires her through dreams to give her images. Okay. She had this dream that she is told by the Holy Spirit, weave the pattern of a black dog. A black dog, or cow. Hey the cow. Okay. Okay, black dog. And she says, I've never designed on my textile a black dog in my life. I don't know how to do it. But the dream comes back, second time, third time, and so she says, I don't know how. In 1998, we were invited to the Museum of Ethnography in Sweden, in Gothenburg. When we arrived there, the first thing that greeted us was the director's black dog. And Nancy almost fainted and said, that's the dog in my dream. The dog, the black dog in my dream. Oh, now it's confirmation. When I go back, I must try. I must make a design of the black dog. Yes. Okay. So when she came back, after 6 months, next time she showed me this. This is part of a bigger textile weaving. And these are 2 black dogs. Okay. Then I told her, hey, Nancy, don't fool me lah. You don't be naughty. You know? Not black dog, white dog. Nancy, oh, cow, pig, cow. She said, yeah, you, don't you know? Look, she pulled my hair. You're black here, but white inside. So she said, look, you know, all this, the black hair, but inside white. So the body is white, but the hair is black. Okay, so this is her creative expression of that woven dream of a black dog. Okay, so we have other crafts like batik and songket, and this is another story I need to tell you because I work with another people group in the mountains, and these were traditionally hats, and the hats were painted. And then we did a revival of natural dyes with them and say, okay, dye your hats in the traditional way, but with natural dye, and then improve on the stitching because it's a double layer hat, palm leaf on inside and reeds outside, and then decorate them. And then I work with another group to produce the base out of bark cloth. So it's 2 communities to do 1 product. And assembled together becomes a hat box that got the UNESCO Award of Excellence. This again from traditional baskets now refashioned into beach bags and little basket bags for little Japanese girls who toddle away in the summer kimonos with a fiber baskets. Craft designers, that's the other thing which I know is also happening here in Taiwan. You are trained in design schools, but you don't have the skill to do the traditional technique. It takes too long to learn to weave that basket. But you are the designer. You are therefore the product designer. You collaborate together with the traditional artist to produce a product like a handbag. Okay, this lady, she's Muslim. She's now trained from the Institute of Craft in making new ceramics. I have a few artists to feature. One is an artist who has been to Santa Fe as well, talking about now the ear, music. This萬煜瑤教授with his wooden lute, and he paints on bark cloth. Now these are sold as artwork, not just to decorate their jackets or to paint on the walls. Michael Lim, who is here in Hoa Liên also, and he is using the technique of batik and use it as a technique for artwork. And here he is with his batik. This is another artist who is my cousin. He's using tree bark cloth as a canvas to paint. Not just the normal canvas, but bark cloth. All right, Bangi and Ball, we have the artists. Performing arts, when you hear music, this is happening. I know some of your indigenous Taiwan musicians who are moving into world music. And I bought some of their CDs as well, and you are using one of their CDs for my fashion show. Traditional dance. The danger, however, in bringing traditional folk dance to the international or even the contemporary stage, please respect the traditional dance moves and music. Otherwise, it becomes like Bollywood. It becomes vulgarized, and you lose the total essence of the tradition. Okay, pop music. I won't go into that. These are Malaysian pop musicians who are young and trendy, literary. I show you some photos of my gallery in Kuching. I use only natural dyes through publications to educate, to publicize about what it is that you have, a cultural asset, and how you can build on it. This is my home in Kuching. Creative lifestyle, ecological and environment concerns. I read this out to you. It is important. The common thread that links all of humanity must be the instinct for survival. But if we neglect to recognize, appreciate, and respect the very environment that we live in, we are digging our own graves. Ecology has no boundaries. Toxins don't stop for customs inspection, and microbes don't carry passports. So why pollute? Leave that thought with you. Recycle. This is made out of your water bottle and made into a nice creative container. You see, water bottle cut out, spray painted into a nice container which I put my toothbrush and toothpaste in. Recycle from old shower curtains. Plastic is the most difficult for the environment to degrade. So what do you do with them? Recycle. All right? Sorry. This is now talking about natural dyes. Natural dye fashion. Something which is very much here in Taiwan. Pinang. And Pinang girls. But I'm creating only textiles for the Penang girls, out of Penang. Judy probably doesn't know. This is betel nut, Judy. Betel. Betel nut, it comes from a palm tree. And chewing these nuts actually gives you a high. Right? It's like smoking cigarettes. Many people believe that it keeps you awake and gets you still excited and keep you awake if you're a lorry driver late at night. And so they chew pinang. But out of this, you can also get beautiful colors. And the other last one which I'm showing you is out of these cake stems, which make these deep fried cakes, which we call kway chap. and then I stain them over indigo leaves to create patterns. This is one of my innovations. Thank you very much.
With students. 各位同学，我们非常的谢谢两位资深的这个讲者带来他们这一辈子走过来这个点点滴滴，然后他们有一些感触。那我想说，我们今天先利用我们接下来一点的时间，我想把这段时间让给同学们，是不是我们有任何的问题，我们可以提出来询问我们的讲者。大家有没有觉得很好奇哈？他们两位都是这么跨领域的哈，一个在服装设计界居然走到的是一个艺术的社会企业的领导者，然后他做的事情，我在想说是整个我们联合国教科文组织都想要达到的一个状况，就是如何让所有的弱势的族群哈都能够获得比较好的一个生活的改善，所以他一直穷其一生都在忙着这件事情。所以 International Folk Art Market 变得不是只是一个艺术的一个小小市集展会，而已经变成一个非常非常有组织的一个非盈利的这样子一个跨国的一个艺术社会企业所以我想这个部分是Julie 是带给我们的，然后另外 Ariel 他带给我们的呢是另外一个是他走过来这样子一个跨领域的他的人生的经历，从一个建筑师学的都是非常多所谓绘图量测。空间的感觉在一个场域里面如何福音人的需求，他把这个人的需求这边就抓到了非常有艺术性的一个处理变成走到了一个服装的设计所以这个部分的我们可以感受到他其实放的人的部分是放的非常的重，是在中心的位置，然后他的服装的设计又让他带到了另外一个可能性，就是让所有具有这样手创精神的这些职人或者我们说这些工艺这些创作者如何能够继续发挥他们的手工艺，而仍然保存了他们文化的骄傲所以这也是 Ariel 老师他过去这段日子所处理的，而且他更重要的是让这些艺术家们不再只是做他 ordinary 的一些生活的处理，而是真正的非常认真的在看待他的艺术能够传下来也改善了生活更重要是让世界也看到了他们。所以我想这两位非常重要一点就是他把艺术家他真正值得大家去 appreciate 去珍惜的部分放得很重要，然后让人看到他们，让所有的人能看到他们，也让他们看到另外一个世界。所以想这个部分是我们很值得学习的。不知道各位呢目前来自于各个不同的领域或者你对艺术一直都有一些想望你有没有可能在这个部分有一些问题可以请教我们两位讲者
I usually start the first question. I always tell my student as a president or as a vice president, as a professor, I told my student I am already in my future compared to your age. So it's their future they are going to encounter, to challenge and to pursue a dream. So what will you tell the student when the student now are facing all kinds of problems? They think, okay, for us they are having such a good time. How do we encourage the student so they will not be afraid to challenge their future and create a future for themselves? So what's your opinion based on your experience?
This is I can only I say make it. Make it. I want to see your future. I want you to either write about it, I want you to sculpt it, I want you to sew it, I want you to paint it, I want you to be there. And that's when somebody has to do it, to do something, to call it into action, for me, that's the way to elicit that connection with really what you have inside of you, but you can't always articulate it until you're brought to that challenge point.
其实这就是做了吧。大概可能让人老师告诉你下一个作业，不要让自己变成只是一个工读生这样的一个状况，等待 waiting for next order。不要让自己变成只是一个一直被指派的人。同学们大概在这个求学的生涯里面，你最大的一个困扰就是每次上课都会带着一个很无奈的精神，好来等着看老师是不是接下来要给什么作业。那我想这样的一个心情，如果我们能够再仔细看一看，我们是不是可以有另外一个想法来超越？就说你到底想要自己未来是怎样的一个状况？你到底希望自己未来是在哪个位置？你到底希望你未来能够看到什么东西？以及你到底希望自己未来能够被人怎么被看见？其实很简单，就是去做吧。如果你有很多的想望，你就让它实行吧。如果你呢曾经自己希望能够画一点画，你就去画吧。如果你曾经希望自己做一点小小捏一个什么雕塑，你就做雕塑吧，去捏捏好吧。其实这个只是一个比喻，就是说，其实很多事情非常的简单，你就是跨出那一步，你就会在那里。这也许是我们就是他从他的角度来讲，他觉得非常的简单，所有的困难其实都在那儿，没有什么东西是没困难的。可是只有你到那个位置，你才知道你怎么去把那个困难解决，你怎么可以跨越那个困难。你如果一直在那边看那个困难，它永远在那儿，它永远也过不去。大概简单大概是这样的意思。
For the university students, and those entering university about to, I think that first of all, live your own dreams. Don't leave the dreams of your parents. All right. So once you are confident of what you aspire to be, then you have to be very focused and work towards it. Work. Not just say that, it used to be said in my place in Sarawak, you get university degree, that's your passport to life, right? Passport to life. But that's only the beginning, all right? My brother, who is a consultant doctor, says that if you want to be a doctor, and to be a successful doctor, it's an ever-learning career. Because you have to be very up to date with the latest medical research, the latest medicine and treatments. If not, you're left behind. But even as a GP, you need to know, because the pharmaceutical industry is constantly changing and improving. So that if you are not with it, who wants to come with you, except your old aunties and uncles back then, right? So, live your dreams, but work at it. A career is to be worked on and not just to sit back and sleep and let it grow by itself. I have changed careers in my life, and I know it. From an architect, I didn't want to be an architect to start with. I had in my A levels in school, wanted to be a doctor. I didn't get into medical school. I went into and got accepted into an agricultural school because that was also my interest. I was interested in planting things. So I went to agricultural university in Malaysia. But Malaysia being a Chinese-born, fifth generation Malaysian, you are second-rate student. All right. So when my opportunity arose for me, I got accepted to the University of Singapore. I accepted and went there to do architecture. And I loved it because it was creative. And I never knew what an architecture student would be studying or what the architect would do, but when I went into the course, this was the course for me. So I worked as an architect for 30 years. But during that time, I was also getting involved in arts and crafts. And then slowly this interest took over. That's where I am a retired architect, but actively photographer.
他们人生也是非常的精彩，我觉得他们那个跳阶你无法想象。最近一开始大家都想说，小时候都有说你的梦想是什么？他梦想是要做一个长者，结果后来没有进医学院，那就跑到了一个农业性的一个大学里面念了以后呢，又再转到 architect 就是去念建筑，但他对建筑一无所知，但他也无所畏惧，因为他觉得这好像还蛮有趣的，因为他 creator， 他是比较有创意的。到那边以后，再进了这个建筑的这样的一个行业30年，30年通常对我们来讲，应该就退休了。可是我感觉他是没有退休，他刚告诉我的意思是，人生如果你觉得你是要退休，你其实大概就差不多了。他没有，他退下来，其实他是换另外一个跑道，因为在这中间他慢慢一直在不要放弃他对其他东西的一些想法是什么呢？艺术跟工艺，这些都是他喜欢的。慢慢他就很顺畅的就接过来，到现在他可以说他是建筑师退休，这是另外一个这样子的一个职业继续永续的让他是现在这么的有精神。我觉得艺术的力量是让人非常的年轻，你的热情永远在。所以看各位不是有艺术的种子吗？曾经有一些艺术的喜好嘛，千万不要忘记你有这个艺术的能力。我常常告诉我的学生，我有点打岔过来。告诉我自己的学生，我是在艺术的系所里面教书，常常看到的人都是他会告诉你说我很喜欢艺术，可是我不会画画。我就跟他讲，你不会画画一定是我们的错。为什么老师的错？不是的，一定是你曾经在学习的过程里，你曾经有过不是特别好的经验，或者是曾经有过没有很好的一个鼓励支持，让你刚刚开始想萌芽的那个画画的欲望。那种想要让自己能够做一点点艺术创造的一个动作，你一下就被浇熄。我说那是谁的错？我们老师的错。可是如果说现在你还有这个想法，欢迎你来，让我有一个机会引领你一起走到艺术创业的这样的一个非常美丽的天地。所以我想，利用跟老师跟那个就是李老师他们分享给各位都是要知道自己是谁，而且永远不要做别人想望你的人。别人想你要变成。你不是变成那样子，你给自己的作业绝对不是给别人给你的。然后第二个呢，你的 passport， 你人生最重要的一个护照。当然，第一个就是你的大学里面的学习，可是那是最出钱，接下来才是你人生真正的开始。你要怎么让你的护照被盖得上？每一个章都代表有可能另外一个区分，大家需要一些努力。最重要的努力是知道自己是谁，从哪里开始，你想去哪里。就像高更的图画一样，Who are you？那你是从哪里来？And where are you going？ 这个很重要。我想老师们还在谈的就是高更的那幅画。
I'd like to say something before that, because commenting on Julie's presentation, right, at the international folk art market, right, and what she said is that in the selection process, they are very careful that all the artists come and they are successful in selling.
Yes.
Because sales is important to sustain the folk artists.
Yes.
And out of the folk art market now, we have come up with a new network. It is known as the Global Folk Art Network, GFAN, G-F-A-N. And the GFAN, the Global Folk Art Network, comprises of 3 entities: the Folk Art Alliance, the Artists Group themselves, and the Museum of International Folk Art in New Mexico. So it's 3 partners. And it is only being launched this year, and it will grow and it will encompass and include, be more inclusive of all international folk artists. But as we were brainstorming, one of the key requests from folk artists is that we need more markets.
Yes.
So the problem then is where, when, and how to create more markets for traditional folk art. So that is the challenge.
Thank you. That is the challenge. Someone raised their hand.
Hi, thank you very much for your inspiring speech. I have one question, just according to a case I observed. In the class, one student group, they are developing social entrepreneurship project, and what they want to do is to help the one indigenous artist to sell her product. However, they were challenged by other groups that, okay, so you want to sell the product, but where's the market? There are two parts. One is like the artist. She didn't know how to price her product, and the other one is that the student didn't know where to find those customers who will appreciate the product. So I'm wondering, as a mediator, I think both of you are like mediator of this kind of process. I'd like to know your experience. Like, how do you help to communicate with the customer and the artist themselves? Thank you very much.
I don't know where to go. That's a multi-layered question, but I think first of all, for me, and I think this is really important to remember, a orange crate by the side of the road is a market. A market is everywhere. So you look at the product and you say, first of all, is this made well enough? Is this actually worth somebody buying? If you can find the right person to match up the market with the product. That's a very important question. Is it quality? If it is quality, and this is, you have to define quality too, the technical quality, the aesthetical quality, the fashion, if that's a part of it, because when you're dealing outside of, it depends on where it falls. And I also think what I would do then is right away, if you think it's quality, think about what kind of a marketplace already exists for that kind of thing. And then look at taking the product to and asking a few people who have shops or have businesses that have that kind of product to give you a critique. Is the price right? Is the quality as good as I think it is? Is there really a market for handbags with handles as opposed to a handbag that you sling across your body? Or maybe you put two straps on the piece. I'm actually a product development person. And although in traditional work you do product development as well, you don't just stop. So it's being creative about finding the marketplace. If it's a great product, why don't you just invite all your friends over and have a Tupperware party with art, which is a great thing to do, and get them to make comments about what other colors might be good, what part of it do they like the best, and maybe the artist can then take that and make some samples of new things that have more of that particular embroidery or more of that particular design in it than other things, so that the artists themselves can learn from the customer what would be good. But also, you have to respect the artist always. That artist might not want to learn from the customer, and that's great. But then that artist has to take that out and figure out the right place for it. But never think that there's not a market. Believe me, if it's good quality and it's beautiful and it has a place, something that it does in the world, even if beauty is the only thing that it does, there's going to be a market for it. Be creative. Don't think that because it's this or that it won't work. Believe me, there's a place for everything. It's really well done and beautiful. I hope that was helpful.
It's okay, I get it.
Both opportunities and also, of course, actually, along with how do you, just make some comments on artists stand out to do the marketing, or the businessmen come out to find the artists who can make good products. Of course, you can say either one will be okay, but can you make some comments on this? Because this always happens. For example, I'm a scientist. They always say, oh, you scientists should come out to be a journalist or reporter to make stories to the general audience. But we say the journalist or the reporters should learn a little bit of science to report something about science, learn from the scientists. So this is always the, how do you say, dilemma. Can you make some comments on this?
Okay. My comment first. Most artists are very bad businessmen. They are artistic. Scientists too, I don't know. So sometimes people need collaboration with a business-minded person to help them to market their products, right? To help them organize. Like for example, my community of Iban women weavers, they are, first of all, most of them are illiterate. They don't even know how to write, so they can't even take records of how much they have sold, right? Or how much it is valued. So someone has to be there to be the intermediary, and in this case for international marketing, I am not the person, because I help them revive their textile weaving, I help them develop it, and so at the end of the day, yeah, you get them to revive and to make these beautiful textiles, but who's going to help them market? Not their own Iban organization. So I'm being the outsider in a way because I'm not Iban. I have landed the job of marketing for them over the past 20 years. So that's the case, all right? So it is like this, whether it is the businessman, the craft artist, where is the happy marriage of the two? And the international folk art market is only, for many of the common craft artists, is only a dream, far away. For even the artists who attend, they may not be accepted the next year because they want fresh blood to come in. So you may not be repeated students or what they call attendance there. So you have to constantly be on the lookout for where are other possibilities of marketing. So that the networking then becomes very important. And being a villager artist, you are far removed from all this network. So it needs dedicated people to help them. But the dedicated people cannot be the greedy businessmen who just want to go in and make money out of them. Alright? Because they have had the case of businesses applying to the market, and then they say, oh, they'll bring an artist, but last minute they say, oh, I'm sorry, an artist cannot get a visa to go to America. Alright.
I need to say that's like the chicken and the egg. Which one comes first? If the artist can, for example, as a scientist, when you said that, I thought, wow, if I did something scientific, I'd make sure somebody knows about it. Because that's my personality. So, you know, you're at a dinner, or Edric sees me when we go to meetings someplace, and he says, oh, Judy, she's selling. He doesn't mean I'm out there trying to sell somebody's goods. I'm out there trying to get artists excited about being artists and about getting together and about learning from each other. And I think the one thing is this is one of the great things of life. You always have to find a way to expand yourself a little bit. To do something that maybe isn't your natural inclination, but that helps you to articulate to the possibilities of the world what you would like to become, what you can do, what your vision is. So I think that that's one of the inspirational things about the folk art market is that they see other artists, some of whom can do these things, some of whom who can tell their story more easily. They all have to stand up and learn how to tell their story to each other in the training program. These are things that are very difficult for people to do, but I think if you understand that you're doing something exquisite or something exciting as a scientist, which is exquisite, then you need to find a way to help to communicate that to other people, and they'll carry the ball for you. A lot of people will carry the ball for you once you can explain to them the essence of what you're doing. Because that essence, in reality, combines with the essence of another human being and makes them richer. Remember, you're always in the business of sharing your riches.
Okay, this is adding on to what she says. Me saying that you're always out there selling, alright? But selling by means of advertising and promoting is ever so critical. Traditional arts now, World Class Council, of which I'm Senior Vice President, we say the future is handmade, means things made by hand. But if we do not continue to have media promotion and awareness of the beauty and the quality of handmade craft products, for example, then who's going to be aware of it? Who's going to be knowing that there's such a thing here in Walian, or there's a thing there, there's a beautiful duck in that place, right? So you need the promotion, you need the creation of public awareness, because that's where the market is. And the thing is that in this day and age, with all this modern hype about IT and mass media and Wi-Fi and all that, there is still inadequate platforms that creates awareness of our arts and crafts and the beauty of handmade.
Get together with your friends and make a market.
Just one more Saturday.
Exactly. But we also hope that artists will go home and create their own markets around the world, because local markets are the future. Where is a young artist going to show and sell their work if they don't have a local market? And international tourism is growing. God, I wish I could remember these numbers. It's exponentially growing at a rate of 3 times its size every 5 years. It's an extraordinary thing. And these are different tourists. These are not the tourists that want to go and buy the plastic camel. They might sooner buy a camel, actually, or a camel blanket, or a camel traffic, as we call it, the little castles and things that the camels wear. So what I'm really trying to say is there is a trend, of course. We're swinging back the pendulum from the overabundance of reproduce, cheaper, to coming back to something that has meaning. People are looking, actually, for meaning in other societies, and that's why the international tourism business is growing so quickly. And nothing goes better with the international experience than international traditional cultural art.
文创其实在最近这边被大量的讨论，其实是很好的，因为大家突然注意到了这样的一个部分。但是我想今天老师们两位资深的老师们在跟我们分享，我觉得他们完全不会去大家谈论这个部分，反而是让大家回到最中心一点去想。那我们所谓这些艺术的创意、这些文创的，如果跟那个产业的结合，它的目的是什么？它其实只是想要让我们的人生活可以更美好。你所有的这些经验能够更的生命而不是非常表象的。然后这样的声音会造就这个全球的一个市场里面，尤其是在一个文化市场之下，非常多的这些观光客、这些游客们，他想要旅行世界，他要看什么？他看的不是这些表象的东西。越来越多的观光客，他会希望到别的国家去买的不是一些流行文化的东西，其他国家也买得到的，一般大众这种复制品的、很快速制成的东西，而是比较希望能够到各个小乡镇、小巷弄、小的什么地方去看到一些小的工坊小的市集、小摊位里面有很年轻的刚刚创业的这些艺术家们、手作业者做他手工的东西，不是大量化的东西。然后这样子的一个趋势，其实是奠定了这个未来有可能的。那个绝对的趋势就是一个首创 ，handmade 就是首创，首创的这个感觉会慢慢的回到我们所有的人的生活里面非常重要，也是这个全世界里面目前的趋势是看到一个首创的精神。所以回到我们刚刚来讲，如果说一个艺术家跟一个产业里面，如何我们中间去找到它的链接点？当然很重要的，我认为是中间的那个在一个枢纽角色的这样子的一个关键的角色，其实是必须要多被鼓励提倡，透过教育，让每一个如果能够在这里，不要有很贪婪的心，愿意能够服务，为这个艺术家，为这个我们的这个生活的世界能够更美好的这样子的人，艺术经纪人、艺术策展人、艺术行政的人、管理者。像这样子的一个人，会是未来非常重要的人才的需求。然后这里面，我认为是通过教育，其实在座你们每一位都有可能变成现在这样子的一个位置，变成 one of Julie。他在过往做的可能有一天就是变成像他一样。你在哪里呢？在你们家的门口，可能一个小小的市集，你就让这些妈妈们会做这些小的裁缝、刺绣，她开始会端出她的东西来。所以不要忘记你自己有可能会有影响。然后我觉得教育还是非常的重要，因为我们东华大学这次来办这样的一个活动，其实很重要的一个精神就是希望能够让大家了解艺术有多么的美好。我们好长久一段时间忘记了，我们也好长久一段时间忘记艺术其实可以进到我们的生活是这么的频繁的进到我们的生活，可是可以让我们的生活里面变得非常的 special。然后第二点呢，就是我们东华大学的艺术创新产业系其实也在呼吁这样，就是每一个人其实你并不需要你有多好的艺术创作的背景，可是只要你有心，你有可能就会站在这个枢纽的角色，为未来这个文创的世界带来一个非常重要的一个影响力。所以希望在座每一个人呢，我们都可以不要忘记，第一个鼓励有想创作的人好好走自己的梦，第二也鼓励有这样子服务的心、有这样热忱的人好好来试试看你可不可以影响变一个好的媒介。然后再来是，如果是一个非常愿意 share 的人，也希望尽量呼吁把这个用你的教育的影响力影响你旁边的人，多爱好艺术。还有没有哪一位同学可以跟我们分享一下你的想法？
Can I comment on something else? We talk about creative industries, right, which is so wide, so all-inclusive of so many of the arts. It is a term which is bureaucratic because it is political agenda and lingo, language, creative industries. But the very term industry recognizes that there is a business part of it as an industry. It's big, right? So then from creative industries, we come down to craft industry, we come down to cultural industry. And when we talk about cultural industry, this is one point that I've always raised in my lecture series, going around the Taiwan universities a couple of years now. I get invited and I always challenge the students, look at yourself. What is so Taiwan about you in your way of dress? Is there something that you're wearing today which is handmade and which is handmade in Taiwan? And all the students look very few, right? So I challenge them and say, you come back tomorrow to the lecture and I want to see you come with something which is Taiwan. Because I have, forgive me for being outright and rude, but how do you set yourself apart in your cultural identity as a Taiwanese? And this is related to your lecture series on education. Are you, in effect, because like most of other Asian countries, we have like Malaysia, batik, Indonesia batik, Philippines, you have the Barong Tagalog, Thailand, you have your Thai. But what about Taiwan? Would you adopt Taiwan Indigo as part of your identity, for example? Would you accept taking components of your indigenous cultural costume and elements as something which you are proud of to wear? That when you're abroad, like me, when I'm abroad, I wear my Iban hat. People tell me, oh, where's that hat from? I say, this is my icebreaker to tell them about Sarawak. Because they see it's unique, and it's different, and it's the identity. But when you are traveling abroad, like when I'm going to Kuala Lumpur airport, going to the flight to Taipei, and I look at all the Taiwanese who are tourists there, you know, excuse me, the average Taiwanese tourist is sloppy. 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 They're not well dressed. I know you're casual in your dressing when you're traveling, but there is certain dress sense, because I'm a fashion designer, I look for these things. And I can tell whether a person, whether they care about the way they look, even if they can be sloppily dressed, but there is a certain stylish slop. Right? I will direct to you now, because we are talking about thinking outside the box, about the creative cultural industry and our cultural identity. Are you proud to be Taiwanese? And if you are Taiwanese and not just Chinese, then what sets you apart as a people group, as a nation, that you can be proudly going out there and not be a sloppy Taiwanese traveling to America, to Santa Fe for a market? Okay? Thank you. You can criticize me for that.
你们可以跟他交流。他刚才下了一个下马威，他觉得我们台湾的看到的人穿的衣服啊，叫做 sloppy，sloppy 就是我们是真的糟透了。哎，其实各位，我跟大家分享，因为我自己在美术系任教过。
有没有把你改？
他在礼拜有类似的书。我其实非常的痛苦一件事，你们他们都是学理工的啊，是在做的，别懂，有一些有别的不是。好吧，那我看到蛮多理工学院的学生，他们最常穿的东西是什么，你知道吗？拖鞋，他们很爱穿蓝白拖、夹脚拖，蓝白拖真的是我快受不了，大家都勉强。然后后来我就发现我自己创世的学姐穿夹脚拖，有一个非常高、很帅，那个。身形也很好的，态度很好的一个我们自己的学生。那我很喜欢这个学生，他的表现一直很好。结果呢，有一天我就看他穿那个拖鞋这样过来，我就没想，我就忍下。第二天我就看他穿这样过来，然后第三天我就把他讲，他又穿这种鞋来，你知道我受不了，就跟他说，你知道我你刚刚去垦丁啊？他肯定有你有在那看的。我说你去垦丁啊，你去春南哦，你下次去春南带着我去，带我们老师都一起去。然 然后我就转过走，他听不懂我讲话，后来他慢慢了解。我其实觉得他搞错场域了，他搞错场域了，他要听一个重要的演讲，他还跟我穿夹脚拖来。对，我后来就跟他讲说，我在有机跟他好好谈的时候，就说，其实我们学艺术的人，你现在在学习怎么样有品味。我不在意你是真的画得很好，你未来会变成一个多么伟大的艺术家，可是我要你学到是有品味，让大家觉得这个艺术真的是深植在你的每一个细胞里。你如果现在穿的夹脚拖，代表你完全没有这个品味的基础，即使你穿的夹脚拖还蛮贵的。让大家说我抗议，他说他的夹脚拖还蛮贵的，包括哪个国家走多乱的脸啊，但是我觉得这是程序不对。那其实这是一个例子，就是我们有没有可能有一天也是慢慢的回来看看，说我是不需要买非常昂贵的机票到巴黎，去欣赏人家怎么过生活，而是回来看看我们自己怎么过自己的生活。我除了那个贵在学生穿喜欢的东西以外，我还常问学生，你有没有注意到你的宿舍，你住的房间，你有没有曾经有一天好好布置一下你的房间？好，还是他们又乱丢东西的？其实非常的重要。今天我来问我，你有没有注意今天自己的穿着？是昨天穿的还是前天穿的？你有没有一天你想一想，好好让自己穿一双好漂亮的袜子？其实就这么简单。所以其实在这边老师他刚谈的是非常深刻的一个呼吁，我们有没有可能变成一个也非常有品味的台湾的人？让大家看到我们，也觉得你真的是非常的有味道。我们就像别人我们常看到的欧洲的人，觉得他好有味道。我们台湾的人绝对有味道。我们台湾的人的味道呢，不仅是很善良、很温暖，我们还非常的有品味。我们知道我们每天穿着的东西，你不需要很贵，你不需要买名牌，你可以用你非常少的钱来去支持一个做手工的艺术家。然后呢，你带着他的一个胸针也好，或者你穿他一个手染的东西，有没有可能因为你这样的支持，可以让比如说台湾的蓝染，它从此就变成了你穿戴在你的牛仔裤上面的那个 T 恤，或者只是衬衫，那台湾的蓝染就永远不会像它面临这么大的困境，一直都非常辛苦。台湾的蓝染这样的产业非常辛苦，所以其实这个呼吁就是很简单，大家有一个想法，你可以让自己每一天就是 making special， 你就是一个艺术家，每天让自己一点点不一样。作为一个美术系的老师，我真的是蛮希望能够看到我的学生每天都穿得很好，那个很好是代表你穿起来就觉得开心的来上课，而不是一来就只是躺在那边开始学了那个滑手机。所以各位就是今天其实艾伦老师在这样的一个呼吁非常简单，可是我觉得还蛮沉重。这个沉重是说，如果大家还是听着就想去，这真的很沉重。可是如果说你听了马上吸收起来，马上开始变不一样。这真的好简单，它就会变成是一个 magic， 一个 mystery， 你从此会不一样。因为all the time， 我们刚刚讨论半天，圈里的人开始在注意自己的生活理解服装仪容没有，老师绝对没有意思，还用跟那个就是他们虽然都是在服装业，当然他们的之间的反应敏感度是直接看到服装上。可是我想说，其实每个东西很简单，也希望今天我们这样子的一个从国外请来两个资深的老师跟我们分享他们对美的爱好，也能够影响一点点的你，让你的细胞一点点就开始觉得你要感受到那个美的影响力，美的视觉其实在你身上。今天我们非常的谢谢所有的同学、所有的老师，还有我们的朋友们，愿意在这个下午聆听我们这样的一个美好的分享。也希望未来我们还有机会再跟你们谈论更多。我们对美的向往，以及你告诉我你未来的理想，好吗？今天我们再次热烈的掌声来谢谢我们的就主持人艾伦老师。亲爱的同学们、老师们，如果你们有一点点的机会，真的想这个周末想要离开一下这个城市听说最近这几天台北会非常热，31度郑老师刚刚说的，你们就来花莲吧花莲我在三站部落是。花莲县秀林乡的一个达鲁古族的部落，我这边办了一个国际艺术民族艺术节那是1天的一个活动。如果你有机会的话，你就在那个太鲁阁站，就是新城站那一站下车，可以叫一个计程车，很快就到了，可 可以看到我们整天的活动，所有的艺术家就会展现他们漂亮的作品给你，让你有美好的一个 weekend。如果你可以的话，就欢迎你加入我们。谢谢大家，我们有这么美好的下午，因为有你们在，谢谢。
I would like to thank everyone to come here. Actually, this is the final year of SHS project. If you have followed everything we have done, actually, for me, I think we are looking opportunities in so-called new education, because the traditional concept define opportunity in each disciplinary. But between the disciplinary, the bridging part, the mingling part, there are more opportunity, both for the educator and for the youngster, for the young student. So I myself are trying different solution or different possibility to sustain the future Master Academy even when this project ended. 其实我们也在试不同的方法、不同的主题、不同的形态。即使在教育部这个 SH 这个计划结束以后，那它会有一个新的机会。那这个机会站在大学里头，是为了年轻人的教育跟整个教育的这个 content 的新内容。我觉得这个是让我们非常非常 excited。那刚才万老师说了，如果你周末没有事情，礼拜六在三站部落有一个那个国际民族的艺术的这个市集，是一整天的。那事实上花莲是一个新机会，我17年前发现的。好，今天谢谢所有的朋友来，谢谢各位。